Okay, recording. Welcome to the Something About Catholics podcast.
I'm Jessie.
I'm Ryan, and this is season 3, episode 2. I'm not going to continue to do that because I will forget exactly where we are going forward.
What number are we?
Yeah, I have no idea how to keep track of that. So today, we were going to speak a little bit about All Souls Day and All Saints Day, given that we are now almost 2 weeks into October, which is crazy.
This is crazy. And Halloween.
Yeah, the year is kind of wrapping up. And I don't know about you, but where I work, October and November are insane. And then December, I guess the tail end of November when Thanksgiving begins to roll around, everything kind of just evaporates. The time just disappears. And I think it's because so many people are taking time off.
Are you saying me or our dear listeners?
Anybody and everybody that wants to listen. So before we get into that, though, I just want to very briefly say Happy Columbus Day.
Happy Columbus Day on this October 13th as we record.
Yeah.
By the time we put it out, it'll be long past, but
Yes.
it was happier for you than for me.
Well,
It's a federal holiday, so you had the day off. I'm not jealous.
Gave me more time to work on things. It wasn't like I just lounged around the whole day. So I had an opportunity to catch up on some different things that I needed to. So
good.
but I think it's great. I think it's great to celebrate Columbus Day. I think he's a wonderful historic figure and a wonderful Catholic. And arguably, without Christopher Columbus, we wouldn't be in the country we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he connected some very interesting worlds together by being very brave and innovative, discovering the new world. And I guess there was a document that surfaced a couple of years back that has been the brunt of accusations about how he was a brutal, enslaving, just horrible person. And it's worth noting that document was created by a Francisco de Bobadilla, and he was a chief political rival to Christopher Columbus. So essentially it would be like going back into the past and fighting a document by Joe Biden about Donald Trump, or vice versa, if you really want to play that game.
Wow.
And painting him in a really terrible light. But we have just decided as a country to completely distance ourselves from Christopher Columbus. And I think it's really awful. And I think it's an atrocity to do that because he's such a great historical figure and such a great figure in the Catholic faith.
I cannot imagine having the courage to just go explore a new world and see what's out there before anybody else has fully reported back to me on how many amenities are there, how comfortable I'm going to be.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he went on many, many voyages. And when you think about it, he actually endured 7 different rejections before securing funding to even go on his 70-day voyage. And by discovering America, he opened the door to European settlement, which in turn sparked all kinds of scientific, economic, and cultural advancements that completely changed the standards of living. When we say he discovered a new world, he quite literally discovered a new world. And when you think about it, the timeline of Western civilization and many of the freedoms we enjoy today, whether we like it or not, would likely have been delayed by many, many centuries.
If he didn't finally get that okay, the securing of funding.
Yeah, if he didn't finally get that okay, that's right. So, yeah, we celebrate him today on October 13th.
All right.
And so with that...
Would it also be a spooky movie day if it was a Friday? If it was Friday, October the 13th?
Oh, I didn't understand where you were going with that, but that now makes sense. Yeah. Any Friday the 13th is a good Friday to watch something spooky. So, with this being the month of October, we were going to explore the topic of Halloween, All Saints, and All Souls Day. Three very, very interesting topics to cover from a Catholic perspective, especially the latter two.
I think that's probably why my mind was there with the spooky things.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about why you felt this was an interesting topic. What spoke to you about this, other than the fact that it's October?
Ooh, I wish you had a button for spookiness.
I know, ghosties.
Well, I wanted to talk about the 3 days because I think they're interesting, and a couple articles that I've seen over the years. More recently, I don't know if it's always been something that kind of gets brought up as, hey, we get to claim this, is a couple articles saying that Halloween can really be traced back to more of a Catholic theme. So the last day of October, as most people listening would know, is Halloween. And then I always get which comes next confused. But for us in the Catholic Church, the 1st of November is the day after Halloween. The 1st of November is All Saints Day. And then the 2nd of November is All Souls Day. So
I have read recently that Catholics should not give up on this holiday and instead should reclaim it, because I think that there's a lot of discussion that over the last decade or two, the holiday has embraced something that is a little bit more dark and evil than maybe it used to be.
yeah,
But
it's a lot of reminders of like, have fun with it. Not
to have fun with
not
it.
go with the Gothic only dark side of what it can be.
Well, I think more to the point of what I'm trying to say is that I think there's an air sometimes of being complacent when something gets hijacked or taken, and I think there are folks that are just like, well, just give it to
Let
them.
it go. Yeah.
And we shouldn't do that, because they are very, very important days in not only the liturgical calendar, but to Catholicism as a whole.
Yes. And you can also dress up as a saint if you're a Catholic or if you're not.
You could. You could.
That's a way to reclaim
But
it.
there is nothing wrong with dressing up as anything spooky either. I just think that you have to discern whether or not you're glorifying something that maybe falls on the evil side.
Or for you and I, if it's just too scary.
Yep. Don't get spooked.
So next I wanted to say, so for Halloween, I thought it was really interesting to look up the roots of the word. You may have heard of Halloween as All Hallows Eve, but what is a hallow and what does it mean to celebrate it? English has a usual double vocabulary with many words based on Latin roots and others with some German roots. That's why we have two words for so many things. And I thought an interesting example that I found is a cat. The example of the word cat is derived from a German root, and feline is derived from a Latin root. And the word hallow belongs to one of these German Latin pairs, but it's much less familiar to us than the parallel word from Latin saint. Hallow comes from the same root as holy, and a person who's hallowed is a saint. Hallow comes from the same root as holy, and a person who is hallowed is a saint. Someone who has been sanctified or made holy. Thus, in the Lord's Prayer, we say, hallowed be thy name. If we said that using words derived from Latin, it would be something like, let your name be sanctified. May people treat God's name as something holy and thus honor the holiness of God himself. The "een" in the part of Halloween is similar. "Een" is seen as a contraction of the word even, an older way of saying evening. Halloween is thus All Hallows Eve.
Or All Hallows Eve. That's typically how I hear it.
Yep. The evening of All Saints' Day, and it came to be celebrated as an early anticipation of the day that followed, the same way people celebrate Christmas Eve in anticipation of Christmas Day. So, how did we get from that to the more Gothic-themed Halloween that we all know today? First, we need to explain a little bit more about the next day, All Saints' Day, the day that follows Halloween, the Halloween that we know today. So, why celebrate All Saints' Day in the first place? Since there are only 365 days in the year, not every person in heaven can have their own liturgical commemoration. But they all should be recognized for the way that they cooperate with God's grace. Thus, All Saints' Day was created to commemorate every last individual in heaven, even those whose salvation is known to God alone. So from the Catholic perspective, we might not know for sure if they're saints or not, but if they're in heaven, we're celebrating them that day. In Revelation, God describes the population of heaven this way. After I looked, and behold, a great multitude, which no man could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes, with palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, "Salvation belongs to our God who sits upon the throne and to the Lamb." This is why we have All Saints' Day. We believe all of these other people mentioned deserve recognition as well. I thought this was interesting to put it into perspective. For example, if your departed grandmother is in heaven, even if she's not ever been canonized a saint, on All Saints' Day, the Catholic Church commemorates her and the work God did in her life. She too has a place in the liturgical calendar alongside the more famous saints you may have heard of. So any loved one that's in heaven, basically. Precisely when that day occurs will depend which liturgical calendar you're using. In many Eastern Catholic churches, the commemoration of All Saints is held on the Sunday after Pentecost. Thought that was interesting because that's not what we do here in the West, which has a certain logic since Pentecost was the event that led to the evangelization of the world and the salvation of so many souls. In the West, where we live, November 1st became the date on which all the saints were commemorated. Sometimes people will ask about pagan associations, claiming that it was based on the Gaelic holiday
Sam.
Good job researching that.
In so many different movies. So many different movies.
You just know it. As celebrated in the British Isles. But All Saints' Day didn't originate in the British Isles. The reason November 1st was picked is that Pope Gregory II... Pope Gregory III, who lived from 731 to 741, dedicated a chapel in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome to all the saints and fixed its anniversary as November 1st. Later, Pope Gregory IV, who lived from 827 to 844, extended this celebration to the whole of the Western Church. This led to the commemoration of the evening before as All Hallows Eve. Then this led to the following day, November 2nd, being celebrated as All Souls' Day, when we pray for all the souls who are still being purified on their way to heaven. When we say the Apostles' Creed, we profess belief in the communion of saints. The celebration of All Saints' Day is one of the ways we as Catholics live out this profession. It's also a holy day of obligation where we are asked to attend Mass as we normally would on Sundays. Okay, so then why do Halloween celebrations seem so entwined with Gothic themes? I found an article where a Father Warwick, a priest and literature professor at Holy Cross University in Rome, who shared fascinating insights into the Halloween's Catholic roots with EWTN in an article titled "The Origins of Halloween, a Catholic Celebration Rediscovered." The tradition of dressing up on Halloween can be traced back to medieval practices. Father Warwick said the custom of dressing up for Halloween probably has its root in two different ancient customs. He shares one is gussing, a medieval practice where children would dress up and go door to door asking for sweets. The other...
Disguising, because it's supposed to
guising?
be like a disguise.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Where children would dress up and go door to door asking for sweets. The other involves donning frightening costumes to ward off evil spirits. Father Warwick highlights that two traditions, medieval and Celtic, merged over time with the Catholic celebration of All Hallows Eve, creating the holiday we recognize today. These traditions likely traveled to America with Anglo-Saxon immigrants, eventually transforming Halloween into a cultural event now celebrated worldwide. Father Warwick encourages Catholics to reclaim Halloween, as you mentioned earlier, as a day connected to their faith. Halloween ought to be celebrated in all its innocence, he says. There's nothing wrong with dressing up and going trick-or-treating. It's actually a delightful thing. But we shouldn't forget its connection to All Saints' Day. It's important to remember, especially for children, that Halloween is a visual of a great feast day. As Catholics worldwide prepare for Halloween, Father Warwick's words remind us to approach it with reverence for its origins, teaching children to celebrate not only in fun, but also in faith.
For All Souls Day, which is November 1st, and I've always kind of found this to be interesting because I immediately go back to my freshman year at Belmont Abbey. The first year that I was at Belmont Abbey, during Halloween, I guess the best way to explain this is, being that it was a Catholic campus, there was a basilica on campus that you could attend Mass at. And for Holy Day of Obligation like this, they didn't offer a Mass on Halloween night. You had to go the next day. And I specifically remember my mom calling me on October 31st, reminding me gently that I needed to attend Mass the next day. And so treating this like Halloween for the first time in college and not being around people that I knew from high school and going out with friends and kind of gallivanting around, it's actually pretty low key. I was hanging out with my friend John and trouble came to us. So I specifically remember around 11 o'clock at night, two mutual friends who had gone off to a party that John and I hadn't gone to wound up showing up at our door, and were both highly intoxicated individuals and proceeded to get sick on our floor.
Oh, no.
And so one of them...
You had too many spirits?
Wound up crashing on the floor, and I just remember that it was a really kind of horrible night. One of them wound up in a roommate's room and one of them wound up in our room. And this is going to sound terrible to say. The reason that we allowed them into our rooms is because I guess they had caused a little bit of a ruckus and the campus police were looking for them.
Oh, you were harboring criminals.
Yeah, we were harboring fugitives of the law. I think we were just trying to be nice because they were mutual friends.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, the one who had gotten sick on our floor continued to get sick throughout the night. So John and I, being the nice people that we are, were up most of the night, being good fellow stewards, I guess you could say. And first it was 1 o'clock in the morning and then 2 o'clock in the morning. And then before you know it, the sun was coming up. I hadn't gotten any sleep at all. And I don't think John had either, because this guy was in here getting sick. In retrospect, handing this guy over to the authorities probably would have solved this entirely, but you don't think about that stuff when you're younger. Anywho, why do I say all of this? Because I specifically remember, I think I finally fell asleep around 7 o'clock in the morning, and Mass for All Souls Day was being offered at noon. It's either 12 or 12:30, but it was midway through the day. And I specifically remember that I was walking over to Mass. And remember, this is just across campus. It's not even that far away.
It's a small campus.
But I just remember that it was like one of those perfect fall days where it was kind of overcast. A lot of the leaves had fallen off of the trees and it was really cold. And I remember being very tired. And I don't know if you know the feeling of not getting enough sleep and just feeling itchy in your clothes. It's like
I,
nothing quite feels right,
I know the feeling.
and kind of walking in a daze. And I remember walking over to mass, like just feeling like, ugh, I just felt horrible. And all I wanted to do was go to mass and then go back to my dorm room and try to sleep for an hour or so. Just was exhausted.
Yeah.
Sorry for that little segue, but it's one thing that I'm always reminded of anytime All Souls Day rolls around.
There's probably more of the memorable ones that you've attended mass on.
Yeah, I think it's typically pretty non-eventful. Although the other thing here that's kind of interesting is that anytime October 31st rolls around, I also think about the fact that my grandma's birthday is that day, which is really interesting. So I have a brother who has a birthday on December 25th, and then a grandma who has a birthday on October 31st.
Important
Two
days.
two big holidays.
Nick and Nana.
Yep. All Souls Day. All Souls Day is an interesting day because so many of the population that are not Catholic don't really celebrate it, at least not in the same way that we do as a holy day of obligation. I think the focus is 100% on Halloween. Or if you're in the United States of America and it being October 13th right now, we're all getting ready for Christmas.
It was All Saints Day that you went to mass. I get them confused too. All Souls Day is not a holy day of obligation. It's the day after All Saints Day. But it is neat to attend a mass, and that's why I wanted to talk about it too.
So November 2nd, Catholics celebrate a commemoration of all of the faithfully departed, everybody that has passed away before us, known as All Saints Day. And All Saints Day, also known as All Souls Day. And All Souls Day is a day in which we honor them for their fidelity in life as well as pray for them, since they're being purified before entering the all holy presence of God. I watched a great video from Ascension Press, and I don't know the priest's name off the top of my head, but he's a black priest, and he's got a great voice, and he was talking about how much All Souls Day meant to him. But he just kept saying, we do so much praying on this day to purify those to be in the holy presence of God. And he just kept saying, so fresh and so clean. And I got a kick out of that.
So clean.
But as Revelation 21:27 says, of the heavenly Jerusalem, nothing unclean shall enter in, right?
I think it hadn't occurred to me that it was specifically more of a purgatory view of things. Like the day before All Saints Day is all of the saints that we know of, and then all of the people that we love in heaven.
Right.
And then All Souls is a chance for us to pray for anyone who might not have made it to heaven yet. And that I still think, even last year when I attended All Souls Mass, because I like attending just based on the people that I've lost, I think I was taking it literally for all souls that were gone.
Right.
And that's not what it is through researching for this podcast. So I've found that interesting to be able to learn more. Like it's an opportunity for us as Catholics to pray for the souls.
not just our loved ones, but anybody that's been lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. So what's the origin of All Souls Day? The church had an early practice of remembering the souls of the departed in Mass, even before an official All Souls Day. This included inscribing their names on tablets. A version of this in every Mass today in the prayer for the faithful departed in Christ, known as the Memento of the Dead, as well as in the practice of offering Mass for particular individuals. The celebration of a special day began in some monasteries in the 6th century, and by the 10th century spread to dioceses, becoming fixed in some places like in the West to November 2nd, the day after All Saints' Day. This date was itself officially adopted in Rome in the 13th century. It seems just like yesterday. The day is primarily celebrated in the Catholic Church, but it's also celebrated in the Eastern Orthodox Church and a few other denominations of Christianity. The Anglican Church, for example, is the largest Protestant church to celebrate the Holy Day. It looks like Some other Protestant denominations do not recognize the holiday and may disagree with some of the theology behind it. That's all right. We forgive you. So what can one do on All Souls Day? Even though this is not a holy day of obligation, you can attend Mass on All Souls Day,
And I highly recommend it.
especially after what we just
That's why I wanted to talk about it. Because I just think it's so cool.
The day should probably be spent, at least in some part, in prayer for the souls of our loved ones, as well as those who have no one who will pray for them. It is an honored custom as well to visit the graves of our deceased on this day, both to pray at the place where their bodies, hallowed in life by the sacraments, await the general resurrection and leave some mark of esteem, such as flowers to adorn their graves.
I didn't know about the practice of visiting graves or cemeteries until maybe the last couple of years either. That's not something that we did as a family growing up or ever heard a priest say, hey, tomorrow you could go visit and pray for anyone and everyone at a cemetery. Like, never even crossed my mind when I would drive past a cemetery, go to a cemetery for a loved one, any of those things. So I just thought that was cool. We can visit a cemetery, pray for the souls there if you're into that sort of thing, but it's especially encouraged on All Souls Day.
Switching gears just a little bit over to the folklore side of things. So the origins of All Souls Day in European folklore and folk belief are related to customs of ancestor veneration. This is typically practiced worldwide through events such as the Chinese Ghost Festival, the Japanese Bon Festival, or the Mexican Day of the Dead, which is the one that I'm probably most familiar with. The Roman custom was that of the Lemuria. Now, priest that I just spoke about with regards to Ascension Press also spoke about this piece here that I'm going to get into. But in Tyrol, cakes are left on the table, and cakes are left for
ancestors.
Cakes are left for ancestors on the table, and the room kept warm for their comfort. In Brittany, people flock to the cemeteries at nightfall to kneel bareheaded at the graves of their loved ones and to anoint the hollow of the tombstone with holy water or to pour libations of milk on it. At bedtime, the supper is left on the table for the souls. In Bolivia, many people believe that the dead eat the food that is left out for them. In Brazil, people attend a mass or visit the cemetery taking flowers to decorate their relative's grave, but no food is involved. One other thing here real quick. The piece that I wanted to get into a little bit, that the story that I had heard earlier from the priest pulls a little bit more of a thread on the cakes piece. So trick-or-treating, did you know that there was something called soul cakes? Or have you ever heard of soul cakes before?
I just saw that.
So the tradition of making soul cakes on All Saints' Day is one which my family, not my family,
I would think
it's a
your mom
cool
might know.
Catholic tradition and actually is rooted in medieval times. And ultimately the way that this worked is this. So taken from the Catholic Education Resource Center, begging at the door grew from an ancient English custom of knocking at doors to beg for a soul cake, in return for which the beggars promised to pray for the dead of the household. Soul cakes, a form of shortbread, and sometimes quite fancy with currants for eyes, became more important for the beggars than prayers for the dead. Florence Berger tells in her Cooking for Christ a legend of a zealous cook who vowed she would invent soul cakes to remind them of eternity at every bite. She cut a hole in the middle and dropped it in hot fat, which wound up being called a donut.
Oh.
Circle that is to suggest the never ending of eternity. Truth or legend, it serves a good purpose at Halloween. The refrain sung at the door varied from a soul cake, have mercy on all Christian souls for a soul cake, to the latter, soul, an apple or two. If you haven't an apple, a pear will do. 1 for Peter, 2 for Paul, 3 for the man who made us all.
Spooky.
I know. It's really cool, though. I wanted to talk about that real briefly.
It is cool. It's like when you didn't have TV to distract you, the things that you could come up with to do.
I mean, it's way, way, way before TV.
Yes.
Okay. So some of this is rooted in something called purgatory. And from the earliest days of the church, Catholics have believed in a place of final purification for the faithful who died. Those who died a martyr were recognized as already with God, since they were perfectly conformed to Christ and his cross by their martyrdom. For the many believers who never had the opportunity to give such a public witness, the church offered prayers, especially the Mass, that have been purified from every imperfection. They would enter into heaven. This can be found in many ancient texts, as well as the witness of the catacombs and the tombs. In the Middle Ages, the theological explanation was developed and the name purgatory began to be used, since it aptly describes the belief of the church from the beginning up until today. Is purgatory biblical? While the word purgatory does not appear in Scripture explicitly, the possibility of purification after death certainly does in undeveloped form. If we take a look at the book of the Maccabees, for example, Judah Maccabee sends an offering to the temple on behalf of his fallen men who had committed a superstitious act. While this Catholic biblical text is not in the Protestant Bible, owing to its removal by the Reformers, it nonetheless witnesses to the faith of Israel in the 2nd century BC. In the New Testament, our Lord advises us to settle our affairs before going before the judge, or else we may be thrown into prison, where we remain until our debt is paid. In Matthew 5:25 through 26, we see, "Make friends quickly with your accuser, while you are going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you be put out in prison. Truly I say to you, you will never get out till you have paid the last penny." This is a basic principle of justice. Debts of justice must be paid. We cannot pay our debt to God, for it is infinite. Christ paid that debt, uniting our nature to his divine nature, and we receive forgiveness when we turn to him in repentance through those whom he appointed for this purpose. The temporal guilt due to the consequences in us, in others, in the good order of society remains, and we must settle them to the extent we are able. Returning stolen money, correcting injury to someone's good name, asking forgiveness of someone we hurt, physically, emotionally, morally, and so on. If not in this life, in the next. It is these debts within our power to repair we cannot simply set aside, whether in life or in death. What is it like in purgatory? You can't say it's like living with you.
Me?
Yeah, you.
I can't say it's okay. I thought you were trying to say living with me was like that. I wouldn't say that about you.
Just threw you a nice softball.
Thanks. So in purgatory, Pope St. John Paul II, in 3 addresses on heaven, hell, and purgatory, explained how the essence of these realities is not a, quote, place such as exists in space and time, but the relationship of the soul to God, who is love. On his part, he's always offering it. On our part, we choose to accept it perfectly, or we choose to accept it though imperfectly. We can also choose to reject God's offer of love. Our choice, whichever it is, becomes fixed at death when the possibility of moral choice ends. This determines our eternal relationship with God. The love of God in the blessed soul is experienced as joy, and in the longing of the soul is purified as fire, mitigated by the knowledge that it will one day be with God, and by the comfort of angels, saints, and souls on earth praying for it. St. Paul speaks of the fate of the just when he speaks of the last day of human history. In Corinthians chapter 3, "Now if anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, and precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, each man's work will become manifest, for the day will disclose it, because it will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test what sort of work each one has done. If the work which any man has built on the foundation survives, he will receive a reward. If any man's work is burned up, he will suffer loss, though he himself will be saved, but only as through fire. For most of the human race, their, quote, day of judgment will be the last day of their life. not the last day of history. What Christ has reserved to purify the just who survive to the end will purify the just who die before it, as well as it will punish the unjust also by fire. I had a little part about how long does your soul stay in purgatory and what are indulgences. So the first one, how long does your soul stay in purgatory? What we in the Catholic faith believe. The degree of imperfection in each soul that needs purifying is really known only to God. It can also be mitigated by masses, prayers, and indulgences, etc., as described earlier. This means that although, relatively speaking, different souls will require different degrees of purification that will determine their time in purgatory, we cannot know how long that will be. Complicating this is the fact that while the extent of purification might be compared with time, time is at best an analogy for our benefit. Purgatory is not in space and time, and therefore, while it fits our experience to speak of it that way, it doesn't fit reality. Thus, St. Thomas Aquinas speaks of the condition of the angels and the saints, and the poor souls as being
Have eternity,
which means a condition between time and eternity. This term expresses that, unlike God, who is always changeless or eternal, some things in the saints and angels do change. They grow in the knowledge of God, for example. The saints and angels therefore experience both realities, God and their creaturehood. And then if you're curious what indulgences are a sharing in the treasury of the merits of Christ and the saints, which the church applies to the remission of temporal guilt of sin, whose eternal guilt has already been forgiven in the sacrament of reconciliation, by the merits of Christ's passion, death, and resurrection. Even forgiven sins can still have temporal guilt that requires reparation to justice. If not satisfied in life, it will need to be satisfied in purgatory. See Matthew chapter 5, verse 25 through 26. The Church therefore speaks of indulgences as an effect of the tribunal of mercy, the sacrament of penance, from the Catechism 1471. An indulgence is a mercy given by Christ through the Church when we do certain acts of prayer, penance, or charity specified by the Church. Besides the intrinsic value of the act before God in remitting temporal guilt, the Church attaches an additional value through the power of the keys given to St. Peter. Again, see Matthew chapter 16, verse 13 through 18. A Catholic may gain an indulgence for himself or herself, or for the poor souls, but for another living person, whose will alone determines their receptivity to God's mercy. And then just speaking about All Souls Day, found a question, can the dead intercede for the living? Yes, just souls can, whether in heaven or purgatory. All the faithful, whether on earth, the Church militant, in purgatory, the Church suffering, or in heaven, the Church triumphant, form a communion of saints in God, for he is not a God of the dead, but of the living, for all live in him. From Luke chapter 20, verse 38. So while the holy souls cannot pray for themselves, we will obtain powerful intercessions and please the Lord with our prayers for them. St. Paul of the Cross once said, if during life we have been kind to the suffering souls in purgatory, God will see that help be not denied to us after death. I just thought it was interesting to ponder the concept of purgatory in relation to All Souls Day.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of intertwined with it, like right to the core. So I think it's important to understand why we treat it the way we do each year. And hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight into why we feel the way we do about it.
Yeah, helped me because I was really drawn to going to All Souls Day Mass, even though it's not a day of obligation for us. It's just a day where Mass is offered and we are welcome to go if we would like. And I have been really touched by it just with the souls that I have lost in this life. And it gives me a sense of comfort to go to that Mass. And then I don't think I had pondered the concept of purgatory in relation to that. I think I was treating it more as almost like a funeral mass. I've even been to one mass where they have like a coffin in the middle of it all goes with the spooky Halloween theme, but they have a coffin in the middle of the like aisle up by the altar at an All Souls Day mass. And I thought that was really good for centering your mind and why we're there.
I don't know that I've ever seen that before.
It was really neat.
Wow.
I recommend people go just if you're curious, because it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever seen that. That would be interesting to see.
Yeah, it was at our church 2 or 3 years ago. It's really neat. The one that we attend, St. Mark's.
I wonder if that was a day that I went to mass uptown.
Well, you wouldn't have had to go. I'm usually the one who wants to go on All Souls Day. So I just think it's neat to see what's done at each one. It's like the priests have the option to wear the vestments that they want to wear. And even that, the whole thing with the coffin is just interesting.
Yeah, that is neat.
Spooky.
Thank you for pulling this together. This is a good, cool topic.
Thanks.
And thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you, listener.
Hello.